Oh, hi. Good morning, and welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist Church. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're so glad you are with us. My name is Rick Kimmel. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm serving as this morning's worship associate. We are growing a community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, encourage spiritual growth, and promote social responsibility while we travel on and care for the earth. A special welcome to those at home who are joining us on Zoom today. If you're attending for the first time, please fill out the welcome card on your website so we can get to know you. Now, if you wondered what that little pause was a couple of minutes ago, it was my realizing that I left the announcement in my chair. Fortunately, they stayed where they were supposed to be. Please join us for the inaugural meeting of Seniors Sharing. The first meeting is Saturday morning, January 17th, from 9:30 to 11. The meeting is on Zoom only. The Zoom sessions will be an opportunity for older adults to gather them, to meet, to share, and learn from each other. The Zoom address will be in the Breeze calendar and published in the e-blast. The first topic is ageism and will be led by Reggie Robinette. For further information or questions, please contact Betty McNeely. And the other announcement is this: Zoomers are invited to stay on after the service for a virtual coffee hour chat with Reverend Tara. Now we invite you all to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can be fully present to one another. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee or tea and stay for conversation. Or head down to the end of the long hallway to join a group for the brown bag lunch. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another. And now let us center our hearts and minds with the sound of the singing bowl.
Good morning. It's good to see you. It's good to be together. I am Reverend Tara. My pronouns are they, them, and theirs, and I serve as the minister of this congregation, Allen A2U2 Church, or A2U2 for short. This morning we begin a two-part worship series, The Prophet's Journey, inspired by Richard Rohr's latest book entitled The Tears of Things, Prophetic Wisdom for an Age of Outrage. We'll reflect on the societal role of the prophet in ancient times and, of course, draw parallels to the times we are living in now. Do we revere truth-telling, radical honesty, anger in the face of injustice, and cultural and societal critique? How might we, whether or not we wish to be prophets of our time, how might we follow the prophetic journey, both in our hearts and spirits as well as in our lives out in the world? Today we'll focus on the journey the prophets called us to travel from the shadows through chaos and into a more just and loving world. Next Sunday, I hope you'll join for both, we'll explore the personal and emotional journey of the prophets as we trace through their writing their pilgrimage from anger and judgment through sorrow to a deeper compassion with all that is. This morning, after the time for all ages, our children and youth will join Emily down the long hallway for the first of 2 sessions focusing on the concept of the beloved community, which they'll explore through play. Hear now these words of invocation written by my colleague, the Reverend Molly Hammerhand. What is the use of worship in a world of hostile architecture where the human act of sitting and resting is treated as a sin? What do we gain from gathering when cries to comply with orders drown out reason, compassion, and sense? How do we breathe together, dream together, and hope together when shock steals the air from our lungs and screams of frightened neighbors steal our sleep and a flood of lies steals our understanding? Good questions, all. But listen, the use of worship is to remind ourselves that humanity is of worth and that cynical choices that deny our bodies and needs are not. In gathering, we gain resilience and the reassurance that we are never alone, and that orders given from corrupt mouths are neither lawful nor just. We breathe, we dream, we hope. By being each other's heir, by giving neighbors cause to rejoice rather than fear, and by lifting up the truth no matter who would have it silenced. In this embodied time and place, in our resilient and reassured spirits, in our truth, our joy, our breath, let us worship together.
As we light our sanctuary chalice this morning, those joining on Zoom are invited to light a chalice or a candle near you to connect us more deeply with one another. This is the hour. The time has come. Mindful of our responsibilities as leaders of this faith and guardians of the living tradition, we call upon that great cloud of witnesses, those who came before, those who are here now, and those who have yet to come. We seek their presence, love, and support in this place and at this hour. We kindle this flame to light their path and call them near as we undertake this sacred work.
We light our candle of community this morning with grieving hearts for the killing of Renee Good, 37-year-old mother and legal observer by ICE in Minneapolis on Wednesday, an act of state violence that has taken a life and that reverberates through an already wounded community. We painfully name, too, that this is not the first life that has been taken by ICE this year, but it is the first white person. These are not isolated incidents, but the result of policies that criminalize immigration and enforce borders through fear, surveillance, and force rather than care. And so together, let us affirm in our hearts in this moment and in our actions every day the sacred value of every human life. Will you take a breath with me? Our opening hymn this morning is in your teal hymnal and will be up on the screen, number 1015, I Know I Can. Dale will play it through once, and then you're invited to rise on your feet or in your hearts as we sing and breathe together. This morning, those of us staying in the sanctuary for the full service will talk a bit about what it means to embrace chaos as a time where, if we are diligent, the work for a better world can take root. So I have a few slightly chaotic exercises for us to try together to practice being in chaos and making it through to the other side. You ready? Okay, here's the first one. I'm going to say a word, and I'd like you, even those of you at home on Zoom, to say out loud the first word that comes to your mind as the word is said. Then listen to the word someone else says and say the first word that comes to your mind when you heard what they said. And we're going to do it not like that quiet, like kind of loud. Ready? Set. Quilt. Okay, excellent chaos. Next, I'd like for us to shout out things we don't know. I'll start, and then you can all begin and keep going until I say stop. I don't know how to do calculus. Stop. Excellent. Now we'll practice one of the skills that helps us not make chaos but survive it. It's being able to not know and still be okay. I am going to ask you a series of questions, and your task is to respond to my questions by saying together, I don't know. And then, if you'd like, you can take a breath. Is it going to snow anymore this winter or just keep raining? I don't know. What exactly is going to happen with Maine winters given the impacts of climate change? I don't know. What's the solution to climate change that everyone can agree on? I don't know. What's the solution to the political divisions we're experiencing? I don't know. How do we achieve world peace? I don't know. Why are people so complicated? I don't know. What will the future bring? I don't know. Neither do I. If you'd like, I invite you again to take a breath. And in a slightly less chaotic manner, I invite someone or a couple people to tell me in one word with the first exercise that we made chaos, what's a feeling that you had in your body? Uncomfortable. Overwhelmed. Fun. Fun. Okay. Clear. Relieved. How about the second exercise, or the third exercise? The intentional reminder of all that we don't know and accepting it by just saying, I don't know, together. What did that bring up for you in a few words? Relief, permission, sadness, reassurance, queasiness. Not alone. So one of the lessons we learn from the writings of the ancient Hebrew prophets is that we often have to move from dysfunction through chaos to a better world that reflects our values more deeply. But the hard part is that the chaos, the unknown, makes us feel all those things we just talked about. It's uncomfortable for a lot of us. It's fun for some of us. It's not fun for me. But it's also where a lot of good learning and growth can happen. So those of you who are going to RE this morning are reflecting on the beloved community. And next week, Emily is going to introduce an element of chaos into that reflection, in that exploration. So don't worry, we'll have lots more opportunities to practice.
Yeah, so in a few moments, some of us will leave the sanctuary to enjoy religious education programming where we don't know what's going to happen, but we have a good time doing it every week. And I first invite our lamplighter, Calvin, to join me in the pulpit after he puts his boots on. A lamplighter must be ready. A lamplighter is entrusted to transfer the light of the sanctuary chalice to the lamp and then go forth to RE spaces where they will light the chalices there. I invite those going to RE to follow the lamplighter as we carry the flame, expanding our sacred space.
Would you join me now in the spirit of prayer? It is easy to pray when the sun shines, and we are grateful for another glorious day of being. It is hard to pray when wind and rain and thunder plague our every step and spoil our every plan. It's easy to be virtuous when life goes well and our existence is a journey from bliss to beauty and back. It's hard to be virtuous when life assaults us and our very being is a pilgrimage from bad to worse to worse. It's easy to be cheerful when health bursts in us so that we can feel the very pulse of life. It's hard to be happy when pain and fatigue beset us and we wonder if we can go on. It's easy to do good when our goodness is rewarded and we feel the power of pride in accomplishment. It's hard to do good when we suffer for our efforts and are troubled because we have been misunderstood. It's easy to feel religious impulses well up inside us when inspiration lives at our elbow and walks on our path. It's awfully hard to feel religious when we are tired with work to be done and discouragement seems to mark our every move. O God of order and neatness, we give thanks for all that is good. We are grateful for manifold blessings bestowed upon us. O Spirit of chaos and disorder, be with us also when life is messy. Bless our coming in and our going forth for this day forth.
Now is the time in our service when we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support the ministries of this congregation and our work in the broader community. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a local nonprofit organization doing work to advance our shared values in the world. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Portland Wheelers, who provide people who cannot ride a bike free opportunities to get outdoors for therapeutic recreation, socialization, adventure, and fun. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or, if you are a member, on Breeze, remembering to make note that your gift is for Share the Plate. If you are visiting us for the first time this morning, please know that your presence is your gift to us. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
My spouse, the physics teacher, receives a weekly magazine called Science News. A recent cover story in bold letters riveted my attention and I snatched it. Controlling chaos. Now that's a practical theology. My hopes soared. Here, in concise scientific prose, was the potential solution to my checkbook, my desk, my attic, my basement, my schedule, and possibly the junk drawer in my kitchen. I took notes as I eagerly read the text. It said,
just as small disturbances can radically alter a chaotic system's behavior.
have the author's children also been sick?
Tiny adjustments can also stabilize its behavior.
Tiny adjustments? Why didn't I think of that? What tiny adjustments? I read further.
The success of this strategy for controlling chaos hinges on the fact that the apparent randomness of a chaotic system is really only skin deep.
Is the scientific community sure about this? Have they ever seen my desk or the toy room?
Beneath this chaotic unpredictability hides an intricate but highly ordered structure.
This is not obvious to the casual observer of my life.
This is akin to balancing a ball on a saddle. The ball won't roll off the saddle's raised front or back, but continual adjustments are needed to kick it back into position as it begins rolling off the sides.
Continual adjustments. Now I'm beginning to think scientifically. What continual adjustments?
We don't avoid the chaos. We stay in the chaotic region.
Yeah, I do that.
You don't need to have a deep theoretical understanding of what's going on. All you need to know, in effect, is the shape of the saddle.
Shape. All I need to understand is the shape of my chaos. What shape? And then, eureka. The author writes that the way to keep chaos under control is by a constant stream of nudges. Aha. Now I have scientific proof that my intuitive reaction to chaos works. Nudge it. Don't disturb or organize it. Stay with it. Nudge it. The article has a very upbeat ending. It claims that chaos is not something to be avoided. Due to the flexible and dynamic nature of chaos, chaos may offer a great advantage. I breathlessly await further scientific breakthroughs in this area. There was a deep need. Franciscan brother, teacher, and writer Richard Rohr writes of ancient times, then and now, he says, for someone who would call the people to return to love and to justice, someone who would warn them, critique them, and reveal divine compassion to them. We call them prophets, and every religion needs them. In Richard Rohr's recent work, he takes his readers on a deep dive into the journey of the prophets of ancient Israel that show up in the Hebrew Bible and the Talmud. When I mentioned last week during coffee hour that we would be spending a few weeks with the Hebrew prophets, one of you said something like, oh, not those doom and gloom guys that were always whining and predicting the end of the world. I don't remember what I said. It might have been something like, no, definitely not. So in case I lied just a tiny bit, I will now amend my response and say yes, but also no, but just stay with me. It is true. In Rohr's words, when we picture a prophet of the Old Testament, there are more than 30 of them, including 7 women. Most of us imagine an angry, wiry-haired person ranting and raving at the people of Israel for their many sins or predicting future doom. I personally picture someone who both looks and sounds a little like Bernie Sanders. God bless him. Always yelling and going on with a finger pointing at the sky. But of course, it's actually both much more complex and much more compelling than that. There are prophets in many cultures and traditions across our globe. Islam has the prophet Muhammad, Baha'i, Baha'u'llah, the Zoroastrians, Zarathustra, and so many more. Prophets are believed to be recipients of divine messages and hold the responsibility for delivering them to the human community. I'll focus today on Rohr's framework based on the Hebrew text, but regardless of your faith background or current theological understanding, these lessons transcend faith and have much to offer us all as people trying to live our values in a complex and broken world. For hundreds of years, in the ancient Middle East, the prophets performed the sacred task of truth-telling, acting as agents of change, passing along divine revelations, teaching a moral alternative, and deconstructing the prevailing order. In short, in Rohr's words, their job was to keep their community maddeningly honest. They cared most about the partnership between the holy and the people, and were called to constantly remind people about and nudge them back into their role in that partnership. In this way, he writes, they introduced a completely novel role into ancient religion, an officially licensed critic, a devil's advocate who names and exposes their own group's shadow side. Few cultures, if any, develop such a counterintuitive role. By nature, civilization is intent on success, and building has little time for self-critique. We disparage the other team and work ceaselessly to prove loyalty to our own. So the role of the prophet in this context was to tell the truth, not predict the future, to name what their community was, to name when their community was out of right relationship with divine love, was not living into their role in that sacred partnership, basically to call out when they were out of covenant with their own values, and to warn people about the consequences of their actions, not in the world to come, but in this life. And the amazing thing is that this was not always, but certainly could and ought to be done from a place of love, not of judgment. This is what I can't stand about the devil's advocate. It seems most of the time like critique for the sake of critique, or an intellectual exercise, whereas a prophet's prodding and analysis is a response to deep listening. It emerges. It's always stemming from love and from a loyalty to the healthy core of that which needs to be reformed or transformed. A prophet must straddle the boundary of outsider and insider, the margins and the center. They live and speak from the edge of the inside. That allows them a real empathetic perspective on the situation at hand without the apathy that the comfort of privilege and power can allow us to slide into. They didn't tend to be very popular, and their writings, which we now refer to as resistance literature, was mostly ignored until what they were writing about started to happen. And then people started to pay attention. Think Octavia Butler's rise to popularity in the last few years, when her speculative fiction of the early 90s began to look a whole lot like our present day. There are two journeys the prophet travels simultaneously. One is the transformation of society that they call upon their communities to undertake. The other is the pilgrimage of their own softening of heart. Today, we're focusing on the first, the outward transformation, and next Sunday on the heart. Now, when we look closely at the writings of the Hebrew prophets, we find a classic pattern. When prophets see that the status quo is not working, writes Richard Rohr, they encourage holy disorder, chaos, a scenario in which the fundamental conditions and relationships of the group are disrupted. Either the holy, as we understand it, love, God, spirit, our core values, our ethical commitments, either they outgrow our present and limited understanding of them, and we grow with them, or we regress due to our inability to love and trust what is happening. When holy disorder becomes too much, a community often returns, think pendulum swing, back to formality and legalism, grasping for control until everything seems to fall apart. We are seeing that unfold right now in Minnesota and all over our nation. But you can't go back. The fake new order enforced by tear gas is not the answer. It is only out of holy chaos itself, not the violence, but the resistance, or after its ashes, after things crumble. It's only out of that which a new order can emerge. Which means we have to have enough trust in the chaos to allow what's waiting to be born to emerge, to break through, and not to just passively wait, not to just sit there, but to actively participate in helping to tend the soil for its rebirth. It is so easy for those of us who love order and are uncomfortable with chaos to resist and oppose it instead of protecting and stewarding it. Where we sit in this moment in our own history is ugly. I spent too much time watching footage from the Twin Cities this week, too much time reading the details. I will not talk about those details this morning because either you've watched and read the same stuff I have, or you've made a choice to protect yourself from an assault on your nervous system. And I wholeheartedly respect that. Suffice it to say, so much is at stake right now. So many lies are circulating. America's relationship with love is on the rocks. We are not living up to our side of this partnership. Individuals are, certainly. Most of you in this room, if not all, are. I am incredibly proud of the work that so many of us are doing, how we are choosing to live. We are tolerating chaos, holy chaos, by nudging our corners of the world again and again in the direction of justice and truth and kindness. And that takes real courage. Witnessing your nudging of this world on a daily basis is one of the things that keeps me from falling into despair. But what the prophets point out about what's broken is always a collective problem. It's never about pointing out individual bad people or even individual governments, as much as it pains me to say that. It's always what he calls the delusions of the collective. If we are working toward a common good, we've got to focus not on bad actors, but on collective sin, structural evil, and intergenerational trauma. We are all bound up together in this life, which is the worst news I've heard in a long time. And might also be our salvation. Here we are, in holy chaos, together. Some of us want to go back, to return to an order that worked for those at the center. We all want to go forward to a new order that holds love at the center. I don't know a single person who is having a nice time right now, who wants to stay here where we are. And yet, we can do really good, sacred work here. Rohr reminds us that allowing and creating holy disorder, holy chaos, is likely what John Lewis meant when he spoke about getting into good trouble. Both have the potential to draw forth better things, an entirely different consciousness, characterized by more justice, more mercy, greater closeness to love. I don't know who, if anyone from our world today in 2026, we could map the attributes of figures like Isaiah and Jeremiah onto and draw an accurate historical parallel. If we could, it would probably be some pretty unpopular and obnoxious people who we'd rather tune out, or who we currently do tune out. It might be people who our government has already killed or detained. What I know is that even if we don't have these exact kinds of prophets, we have prophetic voices all around us, within us. We have people telling the truth, creating good trouble, people whose lives are constant streams of nudges amidst a chaotic world. So what are the obstacles in the way of reorganizing, of recognizing the wisdom that the prophets call? What is in the way of listening? In the way of resisting the temptation of uncritical groupthink and the comfort of our own despair? Are we looking in the wrong places? To charismatic leaders with a microphone instead of those living their lives out of the spotlight? My honest answer, which we practiced together earlier, is I don't know. What I do know, what I can do, is remind myself and you that there will be voices reaching us through the chaos and the storms of life that ask us to work hard, that call of us patience, deep reflection that ask us to look inward at the things we hold most dear and be willing to sit with their shadow side. We will be asked, and we are being asked, to hone our structural analysis, to keep zooming out to see the big picture, to refuse again and again to worship comfort and convenience at the expense of our relationship and commitment to love with a capital L. It can be painful to witness and name the truth. It certainly was this week. But community helps us withstand the truth and resource one another to both live in this world as it is and practice for how we dream it can and will be. So today, let us recommit ourselves to heed the call of the prophets, ancient and modern, to stay with the chaos and nudge and nudge and nudge until the fires of justice burn bright. Friends, let us make it so. Amen. Our closing hymn this morning is The Fire of Commitment, 1028 in your teal hymnal and up on the screen. It's quick, so take a breath now. And then you could take another breath after. Dale will play it through once so you can hear the full tune, and then we'll rise on our feet or in our hearts and sing together. After the benediction and extinguishing our chalice, you are invited to remain seated for a time of silent reflection and integration as Dale offers the postlude. We extinguish our flame this morning, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our worship has ended and our service begins. Go in peace.